The Choice, Chapter 3. The clock which marks the passing of a century of time strikes 12, and as its bell chimes 100 years, we turn our eyes to a very important happening, Bristol's Centennial celebration. Let it be known to the citizens of the town of Bristol, we call therefore a meeting of all the citizens of this town at Town Hall on Friday evening at 8 o'clock to decide on the matter of organizing a centennial celebration of Bristol's incorporation as a town. Let every man who believes that such a celebration should be had be present. In response to this call to arms, a cadre of 50 gentlemen assembles at Town Hall. The meeting attracts Bristol's prime businessmen and community leaders, men like Wallace Barnes and Elijah Manross, to name only two. The first order of business is to appoint captains of the ship. Samuel P. Newell, Esquire, a prime descendant of Bristol's early preacher, is tapped as the grand chairman of the Centennial Committee. Epaphroditus Peck shall be the secretary and scribe, a duty he knows well thanks to his father, the infamous squire and town clerk Tracy Peck, who inscribed every deed, writ, and legal document in Bristol for a generation. The treasurer, Charles S. Treadway, of course, the one and only gentleman who is unanimously trusted to manage the money. For the loan exhibition, it's Silas R. Gridley, a dubious character who may actually be the perfect anti-thief, a man to ensure that no precious historical artifacts loaned to the expo will go missing, unless it's in his own pockets. Music and fireworks will be the task of Adrian Muzzy, a man who knows how to throw a good party. Known among the politicos as the Bristol Hustler, Muzzy is king of the flower and feed business and owner of the town's largest department store, as well as the future founder of Bristol's sports mecca, Muzzy Field. The Committee on Finance will be led by the newest state senator for District 4, Edward B. Dunbar, a man who knows his numbers after notching a narrow victory of only 32 votes more than his opponent. And everyone agrees that the Committee on Invitations must be headed by somebody who knows who should be invited and who should be neglected. Charles Riggs, the newspaper man from the Bristol Press, lends his highly opinionated editorial hands. And so on and so forth into the night, planning for Bristol's 100th birthday proceeds. Resolutions are presented and passed. It is decided that the celebration should take place on the 17th of June on the green on Federal Hill, with a grand salute, ringing of bells, a procession, a band concert, orations, and dinners throughout the town. And all the while, it's notable who isn't raising their voice on the affairs. Nathan Burge and Elijah Welsh are on the invite list. They are labeled as members of the committee. Yet, they choose to sit far away from its proceedings and make no record of their wishes. But do not be deceived into thinking that Burge and Welsh have no stake in Centennial matters. Both pull strings from behind veiled curtains. Welsh stacks his proxies and puppets in his favor, men such as Silas Gridley, Edward Dunbar, and others suspected but not named, who help leverage the celebration as a campaign for Welsh's growing empire of political and commercial interests. Dunbar is especially indebted to his backroom patron, Welsh, who formerly served as Bristol state senator, then yielded the prestigious political office to Dunbar in order to keep a fellow Democrat in power at the state capitol. Nathan Burge has other interests to pursue during the Centennial, secret intentions that we will uncover very soon. At first, there seems to be little interest in the party. But as the committees get to work, as plans are matured, the people wake up. Absent ones are invited home, articles of interest pour into the loan exhibition, and the celebration forms the principal topic of conversation. Old anecdotes and reminiscences are brought forth and told and retold. And finally, the long-expected day comes, Bristol's Centennial Day. 100 guns boom in a federal salute while bells clang from the church towers. Places of business and private homes are resplendent with decoration. All of Bristol is out in the streets. 5,000 visitors arrive. The gray-haired reminisce about the manners and customs of the olden times, while the young boast of present-day excitements. It's 10 o'clock, and people are pouring in from all directions, from Depot Square, from Main Street, from School Street. The roads throughout the center of town are filled with spectators, running hither and thither, to the rattle of drums and in a fever of excitement. Now, here comes the parade. 1st Division, the Putnam Phalanx Drum Corps, 117 men led by Major Clayton. Next up is the Uncas Steamer Company, 40 men escorted by Foreman Howard Arms. In full march, it's our Zealots Hook and Ladder Company, 25 men dressed for duty. The line of march runs through Main Street to North Main, to North to Maple to Prospect Place, to Summer to High to Bellevue, and onward to its terminus, Federal Hill Green, before an audience of thousands of onlookers now sitting silent with their eyes fixed upon the stage. A final overture by Colt's band subdues the crowd, and our program begins. First, an opening prayer by Reverend Everett Lewis. O God, we thank Thee for all the precious personal memories that come to us today, as we perceive how rapidly the years are passing away and the forms and faces that we love are hastening one by one into the eternal ages. We desire to be reminded of the value of time and of the great obligations that are resting upon us in the present. After the thousands of spectators raise their bowed heads in prayer, Chairman Newell delivers an address of welcome. And while we meet to consider the past, we should remember that we stand in the same relation to posterity that our ancestors do to us. And as we consider and criticize the conduct and achievements of our fathers, so will our conduct and achievements be brought into judgment by our successors. Now, the history of Bristol, read by our local historian, Epaphroditus Peck. History is but fragmentary at best. We say Bristol is 100 years old today, but these hills and valleys are much older, many centuries old. Men and women had their homes and institutions and rude manufactures here for how many centuries we can hardly guess, but their lives left no record, except the weapons or tools which they casually dropped and which we casually find. The tribe of this neighborhood was the Tunxes. Along the river at Farmington, where the soil was level and mellow, they had their principal village. In the open fields, which are now Plainville, they had another settlement. But these woods, the Great Forest, as they called it, were more valuable to them as a hunting ground than it could have been as a village site. The ledge of cottonstone running along the crest of this hill, they discovered and put to practical use. And the vessels, finished and unfinished, together with the still evident traces of work on the ledge itself, show that a quarry of considerable importance was located there. Vessels from this quarry are said to be found in many parts of the state. We cannot but wonder what will be the history read at our next Centennial celebration, when the telegraph and telephone are crude curiosities for a lone exhibition, when the Great Rebellion is as remote to the thought as is the Revolution now, when perhaps our acts, our words, and names shall seem as quaint and antique as our fathers seem now, when perhaps our 30 factories and 6,000 people, our churches and schools and institutions of every kind shall be as petty and strange as the New Cambridge life is to us. The next speaker, Charles Mitchell Esquire, shares these dear and kind words. The sons and daughters of Bristol have always been loyal to their native town. It used to be said that those who left Bristol to better their condition almost invariably returned. I did not then know the reason, nor did I afterwards discover it, until I had observed in many other places the conditions which enter into human existence and mingle the sweet and bitter in the cup of life. Then I said, and I have repeated it 100 times, and I shall die in the faith of it, that the sun in all his journeys has never seen a spot of earth where more of happiness has come to the common lot than on the beautiful hills and in the green valleys of this good and old town of Bristol. Other towns can boast a greater antiquity. Other towns can tell over a longer list of fortune's favorites. No Plymouth Rock is within your borders. No battle here has changed the course of history. And yet I think I give our native town no second place, nor secondary praise, when I say that Bristol has, to an unsurpassed degree, solved the problem of uniting the comforts of life to the necessity of toil. Here, the dignity of labor has always been recognized. The man who makes a clock that will tell the hours and days and months makes an astronomer also, while he makes his clock. 100 years, and what a century of progress it has been. Contrast it with the period between the settlement of Farmington and the settlement of this locality. It took nearly a century for the star of the empire in its westward course to pass from Farmington's meeting house to Federal Hill. In the last 100 years, it has crossed the continent like a meteor's flash and burned for a generation over the Pacific coast. And what a change has come over the conditions of daily life. What enlargement, what emancipation there has been. The pillion of Deacon Rue's saddle has become the parlor car. The tallow dip has become the electric light. The pony of the postboy, whose coming made a ripple on the surface of the stagnant colonial life, in its place is the lightning express, and the telephone, swift and silent as the fabled flight of Mercury. Now speaks another Peck, Professor Tracy Peck of Yale College, whose eloquent speech begins with the words, "Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, natives of Bristol, and all others who, through no fault of their own, had the misfortune to be born elsewhere. In the rush and rivalry of thoughts which this hour naturally calls forth, I hardly know what to say first, and if I once begin, I fear that I shall not know when to stop. Today, our American life is so complex and exacting that it is very hard for those who are bearing the heat and burden of the day to turn aside with heart and spirit to the enjoyment of even such an event. Unless we are cautious, is there not danger that this constant absorption in business and somewhat feverish hurry of American life may make us forget the higher things of existence and lead to a weakening of the tough and steady fiber of our fathers? For a few years, our lives ran peacefully in parallel lines, interlacing with one another day by day. By and by came the inevitable change. Circumstances broke these early circles. Different tastes were developed within us, different pursuits claimed our time and energies in residence. Soon we had drifted so far apart that many of us now meet only at wide intervals and must utter our greetings and our farewells with almost the same breath. We are like ships that meet on the bosom of the vast ocean. They hastily salute and speed apart to come together again, God only knows where or when. Unless we are on guard against ourselves, we thus tend to magnify our separate interests and to become unduly isolated, self-centered, unsympathetic. It is well, therefore, to get away from our ordinary cares and ambitions, and at least one day in a century, realize and rejoice that we are all members, brothers and sisters of the great human family. What, then, of the future of Bristol? Nearly all of the early Roman literature has been swept into oblivion. One clear and pregnant line, which has escaped all the perils of more than 20 centuries, tells this. It tells of an old man who plants trees for the coming generation. And so, my friends, may we not also plant trees, whose shade and blossoming and fruitage shall be a blessing to many whom we can never know. Can we not, in this centennial year, lay the foundations of something which shall be of daily service and elevation to the coming sons and daughters of this place? How is it, citizens of Bristol, with your public institutions? How is it with your public library and reading room? What of an art gallery or a historical museum? Are your churches and schools moving on from a good past to a better future? If we but do the full measure of duty to our own generation, we may project our thoughts, without tears or apprehension, into the swiftly accumulating centuries. Those unborn generations will certainly be molded by us long after the vanishing of our forms. The final words of the day are delivered not by a Bristol native, but by a politician, General Hawley, who calls upon the town's residents to do something constructive. Something should be done to mark this day in the history of the town. Pardon me for a suggestion. You have an exceedingly instructive and valuable historical collection on exhibition this week. It will soon be scattered beyond recall. Could you not make it the foundation of a mechanical and industrial museum? Put with it that which Bristol and 100 other Connecticut towns ought to have but have not, a free public library. You are to be congratulated for your most successful celebration, blessed by delicious weather and the gathering of a multitude of old friends. But time passes. I thank you and I bid you goodbye. And now the speeches are over. The celebrants disperse. Honored guests go to their appointed dinners while the uninvited go home. Committee members dine at the Bristol House. Fire commissioners at the Gridley House. The band at the Commercial House. Mechanics at the Odeon, Uncas steamers at Uncas Hall, and the Hook and Ladder at theirs. The final crescendo, both symbolic and literal, is an exhibition of the new Bristol Water Works Company. A hose is attached to a hydrant and water is blasted hundreds of feet in the air as an epic salute to Bristol's victory over the tyranny of its terrain. It took a century for the townspeople to break free from the confines of the Pequabic River as their primary source of water. Now, thanks to the installment of miles of cast iron pipes, fresh water from the local lakes is channeled downward by gravitational pressure to gatehouses and hydrants across downtown Bristol, supplying a steady source of fresh water to fight fire and also to fight diseases like typhoid, to improve sanitation and health, and, for its wealthier subscribers, a luxury offer, indoor plumbing. Yet for all the benefits and convenience the water company provides, the fact that the enterprise is bankrolled by pro-temperance John Humphrey Sessions earns it a particularly memorable nickname among the saloon dwellers: the Bristol Abstinence Water Company, turning whiskey to water since 1884. And so concludes Bristol's Centennial celebration. Everything ends in order and on time. Residents return to their homes before dark. Visitors depart on their trains without delay. There is a general lack of rowdyism. 16 special constables and 2 detectives are on patrol, yet no arrests are made. But a crime did occur, undetected by all who attended. As the majority of the town assembled high up on Federal Hill Green, down below at the Coliseum, the Centennial Loan exhibition received a solitary visitor, someone who entered alone, cloaked in a long coat and hood. The exhibition is free, the entry door is wide open. Our figure moves anonymously into the main exhibit hall. Everywhere there on display are the splendors of Bristol's history. Double rows of tables crowned with hanging decorations and colorful banners. Yet our thief seeks only one of the 1,500 articles in the room, a diamond in the rough. Our thief creeps along, scanning the first table. On it is a collection of ancient stone tools and weapons belonging to native Tunxis tribesmen who once roamed the Westwoods. Mysterious amulets of the past, found embedded in Bristol's hills and then acquired by Dr. F.H. Williams. Our thief moves in step with the ticking of clocks, relics of time arrayed along the north wall. Hanging there are old wooden movement clocks, with dangling weights, hand-cut gears still bearing the knife marks of their creator, and deep tones of ticking and talking. And these clocks stand beside brass and spring shelf clocks, with their merryful, childlike prattle beating 5 to 1, as in joyful welcome to the new century to which the old, tall clocks bid farewell. Every exhibit offers a contrast. A worn wooden plow next to a steam engine. Antique books with magazine pamphlets. Here lies a piece of the leatherman's coat. There lies a large stone mortar belonging to a tribesman of Chiprin's Hill. From the copper mine, a pickaxe shaped like a turkey's head and beak. From the war, Colonel James Botsford's sword carried by him in the Revolution. And over there, a round iron tea kettle, 243 years of age. Tracy Peck's family cradle, loaned by those who were rocked in it. It closely resembles a coffin with no top. Our figure darts from display to display, object to object, anxiously searching for the prize. And then, right there, the prize is found. Quickly, before any witnesses can appear, our cat thief executes the theft, exits the hall, and folds back into the marching crowds in the streets. This is how Nathan Burge acquires his second clue, a prized and important object in his quest for the secret clock. He did not know who possessed the object, but he knew its importance, while the owner did not. And so Nathan plants the idea of the loan exhibition within the Centennial Committee in order to bring his private prize to the public surface. All of Bristol's treasures of antiquity, every historical artifact of importance, are, for the first time, collected in one place. And while all eyes are averted to the festivities up the hill, Nathan snatches a golden egg from its basket down below and relishes in the fact that his old enemy, Silas Gridley, will be blamed for its disappearance. Nathan's crime is accomplished, but the heist at the loan exhibition is the last easy victory in Nathan's quest for the secret clock. He collected 2 clues thus far, a special stone from his father and the stolen prize from the expo. The next clue will be the hardest to obtain because it does not lie in a physical place where Nathan can bribe or trick his way inside. The next piece of his puzzle is a piece of information, our third clue, hidden inside the mind of Elijah Welsh. And Nathan must use all of his cunning to acquire it. One piece of Nathan's puzzle was lost in the woods, another trapped in private custody. The next piece is the most difficult to acquire because it is located in the hardest of places to reach, locked inside the mind, the memories of his rival, Elijah Welsh. Nathan waits patiently for the right moment, when Welsh will be at his weakest, to confront him, to coerce him, to tempt him to make a slip-up, and let loose the crucial piece of information that Nathan is looking for. A secret that cannot be bought, bribed, or stolen. It can only be released from the mind of its possessor. When he learns that Welsh is deathly ill, Nathan arranges a private meeting with a dying Eliza Welsh at his personal residence. Welsh is waiting for him in a plush leather chair in the parlor room. A bare wooden stool is offered to Nathan, a most uncomfortable seat for a most unwelcome visitor. Mr. Nathan Burge, what a surprise. I do believe this is the first time you've ever crossed the threshold of my doorstep of your own accord. To what do I owe the pleasure? I've come to return something that belongs to you, Elijah. Nathan places the tarnished nameplate of the Welsh Steam Fire Engine Company on the table between them. It is the sole piece of evidence recovered from the conflagration that destroyed Burge's factory 5 years ago. And what's this? A scrap of metal with my name on it? And so, Nathan, how many company signs, how many firehouses and charities in this town bear my name? 10, 20, 50? But it is no mark of honor for you, is it? For you, the success of Welsh must be evidence of a crime. Isn't that right? You must be happy now that your great villain, the scourge of Bristol, is on his last leg. I would never wish suffering upon another man, or relish it. I'm praying for your recovery, Elijah. Well, your congregational prayers may not amount to much for a Baptist like me. A copperhead, a war profiteer, the bankrupter of clockmakers. Is that the full list of my sins, Nathan? Did I miss anything? It's not my place to judge, nor to ask forgiveness on your behalf. Forgiveness? For what? I started in the foundry business with my father, churning the porridge pot by hand and casting clock weights by the dozen. I never owned a silver spoon or fancy suit or buffalo coat like you, Nathan. No, for most of my life I've worn only the apron of a working man. I earned my way to the top of this town. How does my wealth concern you, Nathan? You're a wealthy man yourself, so why does it unsettle you, anger you? That is a question better fielded by Chauncey Jerome, don't you think? Or J.C. Brown, or Ebenezer Hendrick. But they aren't around to answer you, are they, Elijah? They're all gone now. Jerome went broke, Brown bankrupt, and poor Hendrick, he drowned himself in the same river you fancy for fishing on Sundays. Respectable men, clockmakers, who may have taken concerns with what you call your wealth, Elijah. And there are more, no doubt, who might speak out from the courtroom or cemetery if given a fair chance. But it seems your political donations have bought up all the fairness this town has in its supply. Enough nonsense, Nathan. You know the truth of the matter, but you're just too foolish or too naive to accept it. This obsession with clocks, the clock fever that has sickened this town for so long. It was me who broke the fever, who saved us from that industrial madness. The clock industry was suffocating this town, cannibalizing our talents and profits for the sake of one more cheap clock to sell, when it was damn clear that all the clockmakers and all their markets were dirt, foul, and done. It took a man like me to consolidate, to build up and out other industries, while men like your father tinkered with dusty old clocks, dragging us into the past. It was me who focused on new industries, new opportunities, that kept this town afloat through war and financial droughts, panics and dissolutions, to offer jobs when a clock shop closed, to offer capital when a clockmaker went broke. I grabbed a hold of the sick clockmakers and took every opportunity to contain them in their beds, to starve them out of their madness, to stop clock fever from infecting the rest of the town and dragging it down into the abyss. It was me you should thank, Nathan, not demonize, but celebrate. Without me, your father's legacy, all of those proud clockmaker aristocrats, would have been buried in a mass grave with one word on the tombstone: bankrupt. Spin your own legacy, Elijah, but do not try to dishonor my father's name with your lies. Lies? Let's talk about lies then, Nathan. You think I'm the liar, and men like your father are the ones who hold the truth. Is that it? What if I told you that your father, the great and holy John Burge, not only knew, not only consented, but conspired with me to run all the clockmakers out of town? He had his reasons, Nathan, different than mine. He didn't do it for a profit, but his goal was the same. Those are lies, Elijah. Ah, there it is, the anger. Not at me, no, at your father, who you know lied to you about his private affairs. And you're just like him, willing to lie, cheat, and steal to accomplish some mystical mission, to recapture some artifact from the past. I knew it the moment Silas Gridley told me that something was missing from the loan exhibition. And when he told me what it was that was missing, I knew in an instant the identity of the thief. You're right. There is a villain sitting in this room, Nathan, and we both know who he is. If you want to accuse me of something, Elijah, have the courage to say it straight. I'm not going to ask you to return what you stole from the expo, as I'm sure it fits into one of your secret plans. Plans, secret plans. Are you still up to your old tricks, Nathan? Are you still trying to accomplish your father's old fascination, the secret clock engine of Gideon Roberts? Yes, I know of it too. It's no secret to me, Nathan. It's just an old, dusty ghost story. But not for you, is it? You believe in it. You hope to find it. You have nearly all the pieces of the puzzle, but you just can't put them all together. You can't figure it out. Because you're no clockmaker, Nathan, and neither was your father. He needed a clock master like Joseph Ives to help him. And who do you have? Are there any clock masters left in Bristol? But maybe your problem isn't the master, it's the clock. For that, you can blame your father. Instead of giving you, his son, the secret clock he discovered with Joseph Ives, he buried it, didn't he? Or did he break it into 100 pieces? I'll tell you what he really did. He destroyed it, all of it, except for one piece. A piece that he gave to me, a piece that he asked me to hide forever. He gave it to me freely, with one condition: that I promised to never allow his son, you, to get a hold of his keystone. Imagine, a father who can't even trust his own son. And why, Elijah, would my father do such a thing? He must have had his reasons. Believe me or don't believe me, Nathan. It's up to you. But there is no peace for you with me. No answers. No apology. No tidy little happy ending. I'm not going to give you what you want. You just have, Elijah. You gave me exactly the thing I was looking for. Certainty that I'm on the right path. I'll take my leave of you now. Give my regards to Chauncey Jerome when you see him. He might fancy a word with you on the other side. Oh, Chauncey and I'll get along just fine. It wasn't me who lit that fire. Elijah Niles Welsh, a man born in the fires of the foundry, who forged commercial empires. Bristol's first millionaire, its richest resident, dies. He passes his wealth to his heirs, all of it except for one mysterious item, given into Welsh's sole custody by Nathan's father, John Burge, which is now hidden forever. That is, if Welsh's story is to be believed. Nathan has his doubts. Goading your competitors to chase imaginary rabbits is an old trick among the wily Sam Slick businessmen like Welsh. John Burge was not a careless man. He would never yield something precious to a reckless man like Welsh. If it is true, and he did, then there must have been a good reason for it. A plan, a purpose of some sort. The truth will not come today, but it will come in time. What happens next, like Bristol's Centennial, is a once-in-100 years kind of happening. Only this event is not a celebration. It is a catastrophe. It's a slow Sunday in the month of March, 1888. Bristol's residents are partaking in a morning of prayer and an afternoon of leisure. The first person to notice that something strange is happening is a patron at Mary O'Brien's Saloon in Forestville. Mary's Pub is a social gathering place for the working class, and it is one of these regulars who first looks out its frosted window and detects a serious change in the weather. "It's still snowing, gents. The drift is piling up, nearly to your knickers." On the other end of town, snow accumulates outside a different social gathering place for the pro-temperance and stuffy crowd. A collection of well-dressed gentlemen finishes their game of pool, extinguishes their cigars, and dons their coats and caps to make their way home. "Gentlemen, give me a hand. The door is stuck." "Well, look here, nearly a half a foot of snow outside." "Charles, I hope you brought your boots." Charles Treadway peers out the door of the Bristol Club. His manicured hair is whipped into a wild frazzle by a wicked gust of wind. "Oh my, this will be a nasty one. A blizzard." "No matter. Today was quite warm, in fact. I'm sure this is just winter breaking up." "Seems colder now. Much colder. Best get home quick, gentlemen, and stoke your fires." Residents of the Westwoods are no strangers to blizzards. Snowstorms, both mild and mighty, are a common feature of its climate. So for most of Bristol, the snowy ending of this particular Sunday is of little consequence. It often turns to rain by the morning. Yet their local weather report will be wrong, dead wrong. Just as daylight breaks on Monday, a black cloud appears on the horizon and sweeps over Bristol. Snowflakes consume the sky, and a thick fog blinds all visibility. Temperatures plummet to 15 degrees below zero. The extreme weather traps everyone in place. Inventor Joel Case passes his surprise snow day in the basement of his factory. He's tinkering with new experiments in a machine-packed room illuminated by lanterns. Then at once, he hears a very strange sound. Then again. He walks over to the source of the noise, a desk in the corner of his workspace, right next to the exposed rock foundation of the basement's walls. It's at this desk where Joel places his old tools, wrenches, hammers, and prongs. Normally they are positioned well organized in rows, but that's not how Joel finds them now. Here, in the dimly lit underground room, his tools appear to levitate above the desk, floating in the air as if they are suspended by some magic spell of a witch. Joel draws closer with his lantern and discovers that they are not floating, but stuck to the stones that compose the basement wall. He pulls an iron wrench off the wall, and it comes off easily, like a magnet. Joel's scientific mind quickly rationalizes the source of the witch's magic. The iron tools are drawn to the stones in the basement wall, stones of a particular geology that must generate inherent magnetic properties under the present environmental conditions, such as the rapid drop in temperature. There, in this dark, stone-walled basement, Joel Case discovers something very special about the subsoil of Bristol. In a town composed of many hills, some hills are more distinct than others. They are lodestones, guiding rocks. As Joel Case remains trapped inside by the blizzard, at this same moment, many leagues south of Bristol, in the Elm City on the Sound, known as the City of New Haven, someone else is preparing to venture out into the storm. No trains have arrived in New Haven for 2 days. The trolleys are suspended, post office closed. Mountains of snowdrift now reach the second stories of the city's classic brownstone buildings. In the midst of this apocalyptic whiteout, Harmonious Welsh, brother of the recently departed Eliza Welsh, arrives at the yard of the Blakesley Brothers Contracting Company, where an attendant draws up 2 massive ox strapped to a sleigh. Harmonious climbs aboard, slaps the reins, and lurches his hulking team forward over a snow mound, nearly tipping. Piloting the sleigh in these conditions is no easy feat for a 75-year-old man like Harmonious. The fierce winds and sub-zero temperatures are deadly, but his business is of the utmost importance, and thus he rides off into the blizzard. After a strenuous commute into the center of New Haven, Harmonious slides to a stop at Orange Street in front of the First National Bank of New Haven, his office, where he serves as president of the bank. The bank's entryway is half covered in a pile of snow. Harmonious unlocks the door, which buckles under the weight of the snowdrift. He moves inside and illuminates a handheld lamp taken from a nearby custodial closet. Then walks forward in its faint path of light, straight through the teller's booths and into the rear inner sanctum of the bank, where bankers conduct their most private affairs. Harmonious stands before the bank's colossal safe, a vault measuring 51 inches high, 46 inches wide, and 34 deep, custom built to be fire and burglar proof. He takes a deep breath, closes his eyes for a moment as if to whisper a quick prayer, and then nimbly engages the locking mechanism of the safe to open. This safe integrates both a spin lock and a time lock, the combination of the two designed to thwart and delay potential bank robbers who may be in a rush. But on this day, the safety delay thrusts anxiety upon the brow of Harmonious. This is not the moment for delay. This is a moment to act. And it is here, in the darkness of the bank's sanctum, where Harmonious Welsh opens the safe of the First National Bank of New Haven. The safe is filled with paper cash and notes, gold and silver species, and one small, very special, metal box with a gilded monogram declaring its owner, E.N.W., a box that Harmonious seeks now to open. He presents a very particular key from his pocket and wiggles it into a sturdy latch lock on the front of the box. He pops the latch, opens the box, and his face turns to anguish. The box is empty. Whatever it contained is now gone. stolen from the most advanced safe and the most secure vault in all the country. The strange part, the mystery, is that there are no signs of a forced entry, no evidence of a thief, no footprints in the snow. It is as if whatever secret item the box contained just disappeared in the middle of a most mythical snowstorm. The Great Blizzard of '88 is a defining moment in the memory of all who lived through it, because it is no ordinary snowstorm. It is a near extinction-level event, a glacial colossus hearkening from a distant ice age. The size of the storm is utterly epic, totally gigantic. It spreads its icy tentacles across half of the nation, paralyzing the East Coast from the Chesapeake Bay to Maine and further to the Atlantic provinces of Canada. The scientific explanation for the megastorm is a once-in-a-century convergence of an explosive cocktail of elements. Warm and moist air from the south colliding with cold and dry air from the north. Excessive water vapor propelled by oceanic winds combined with a surprise plummeting in temperature. Altogether, these four horsemen of the blizzard create a biblical hurricane of snow. When the last horseman retreats to his icy lair on the 14th of March, the toll of the 4-day blizzard is staggering. Nearly 400 dead or missing. Herds of cattle frozen dead on their feet. 200 ships grounded or wrecked in coastal waters, with 100 sailors lost to the deep. Trains buried and marooned. Telegraph lines downed. The streets impassable from snowdrifts piled high up to 40 feet in some towns, drifts over the tops of houses. In one place, a 3-story house submerged in snow. Workers are trapped in their factories, children at their schools, others attempting to escape home, and for those that tried, a tragic end. Then, like the flipping of a switch, all at once, the storm ends. The snow stops. The winds die down. The temperature rises. After 4 days of nonstop blizzard, it's finally over. Somewhere in the wilderness, a hand punches through a snowdrift, and a man crawls out. It's the Leather Man, a survivor. He crawls out of his cave, the house of rock constructed by a previous blizzard, that ancient tidal wave of ice which laid its stones in place thousands upon thousands of years ago. For the residents of Bristol, digging out takes much longer. This is the town's first glacial encounter. The townspeople are so accustomed to felling forests for firewood and diverting rivers for water power that they forget by whose grace and under whose dominion they live. Mother Nature culls now with icy vengeance. All progress and prosperity are brought to a halt, literally frozen. Bristol is condemned to rebuild. While the blizzard of '88 subjugates Bristol under a cover of ice, it also uncovers something. It pulls back the curtain on an elemental characteristic of the town. As Joel Case discovered, Bristol is magnetic. It attracts. Far away south in the state of Florida, an amateur inventor is pulled north by Bristol's magnetism. His name is Albert Rockwell. They will call him a dreamer, a visionary, someone who channels the spirit of Eli Terry, of Joseph Ives. As the snowdrift melts, and like so many entrepreneurs before him, Rockwell reaches Bristol with a vision and an invention, but more importantly, the gumption and tenacity to leverage Bristol's infrastructure and ready workforce to make it a reality. Rockwell invents a new mechanical doorbell. Producing it requires a spring, some spare clock parts, and labor, and Bristol surely has all three in good supply. And as Rockwell rightly estimates, the destruction made by the blizzard is also an opportunity for newcomers to enter the market while competitors struggle to recover. In the cold calculations of his business competition, the timing is perfect. Rockwell arrives in Bristol, as he says in his own words, with a few debts, no money, but a wonderful inventory of hopes. H.C. Thompson, with his little water wheel at the old Ives Eureka shop, took me in because I didn't look like a burglar. And Charlie Mitchell, at the commercial house, grub-staked me for 8 weeks' board. Rockwell makes a good product that sells quickly, which catches the attention of Bristol's investor class. Represented no longer by family names like Merriman, Mitchell, or Barnes, but by banking institutions. Charles Treadway, representing the Bristol National Bank, offers to boost Rockwell's enterprise by expanding and incorporating it as the new departure Bell Company. The venture takes off rapidly. Rockwell once sold his bells in a wheelbarrow, door to door. Now he ships hundreds of them to the capital city of Hartford and beyond. In the years ahead, the annual sales of Bell products from Rockwell's company and others like it begin to outpace clock sales, to the point where Bristol loses its old moniker of Clocktown and earns the name Bell City. But Bell City is a future prospect, a prophecy. Right now, Bristol is just a little clock and bell town, but it is growing fast. Its population grows so fast these days that the sight of a stranger is no longer a cause for alarm, except for a particular kind of stranger, a stranger who seems a bit too interested in the affairs of others. Like the stranger who now appears before us, stalking the streets of Bristol in the light of day. He carries a pad and pencil in his hand, and he seems to be conducting uninvited inspections of various dwellings around the town, sketching many of its buildings in great detail, recording not only their size and placement, rods of distance in between, but even counting the number of their windows. He is spotted now by none other than Joel Case, who is lounging on the porch of his latest home build and curious about the intentions of this mysterious sketch artist. "Hello there, you. Yes, you. What business are you conducting, sir? Are you scoping to find the biggest and easiest house to burglarize? Because I'll save you the trouble. It's right down that way. The name Sessions is on the perch. He'll be asleep by sunset, and you can take anything you like." "No, sir. Please excuse my work. I'm no burglar. I'm a map maker." "A map maker?" "Yes, sir. My name is George E. Norris of Brockton, Massachusetts, and I'm here in a humble endeavor to produce the most dynamic depiction of this town that you can fit on a square piece of paper. I've done the same for some other notable towns in the region, and I discovered Bristol on the recommendation of a friend who contends that Bristol is the liveliest town west of the Connecticut River." "A map? Is that so?" "More than a map, sir. I'm engaged in illustrating a perspective of this fine town on an accurate scale for lithographing, a unique product that will garner great interest from your community." Is that so? What have you sketched thus far?" Norris unfurls a massive scroll with a line drawing of Bristol from a bird's eye view, each house being no larger than a thumbnail, but in good detail. "As you can see here from my draft, I'm endeavoring to create an accurate representation of Bristol, to draw the distinct features of every building, shape, windows, gables, and all. Every homeowner might fancy a copy, especially the businessman, as it should be a constant reference for any legal or historical inquiries. More than a souvenir guide, you know? It will serve as an account of associations, a record of changes. It's also a handy advertisement. I have no doubt that once a full collection of Bristol's beautiful dwellings and sizable factories are set upon paper, it will attract the attention of future investors and developers." Joel examines Norris's massive scroll. His eyes move clockwise from a set point on West Street where the sketch begins, then rightward, embracing all the center of town, north to the Rock Cut, east to the Rolling Mill, and finally downward to South Mountain. "Magnificent draft, Mr. Norris. Count me among your first customers." "Wonderful, sir. And which of these lovely homes is yours? I'll mail you my first print." "All of them, Mr. Norris. I'm an architect, and I built these houses you see here on Spring Street, and lived in each one while I did it. So just mark the package for Joel Tiffany Case, and our postman, a dear friend of mine, will find me." "Absolutely, Mr. Case. It's a pleasure to have you as my first customer. And an architect of all chances. A lucky sign for a map maker, don't you think? Better than a burglar, Mr. Norris. Or a mine speculator. That's what your neighbors called me the street before. They saw me measuring the length of the road and yelled, 'You're prospecting a mine then, aren't you?' Heard about them miners striking it rich at the copper mine, and now you're surveying Quarry Hill to swing your pickaxe. Get lost, stranger. They said that. Anyways, good day, Mr. Case. Take care. As Norris saunters down the street to sketch his next frame, something he said lingers with Joel. At first, Joel isn't sure what to make of it. He's just beginning to understand something very important. A connection that hasn't been made until this exact moment. A realization that is only arriving now, triggered by the parting words of the serendipitous mapmaker. Then at once, a truth strikes Joel Case. You're prospecting a mine, surveying Quarry Hill, to swing your pickaxe. Quarry Hill, that is the old name of Federal Hill, of Grove Street to Spring Street, and even the green itself, from when Bristol was nothing more than a dense patch of forest. The native Tunxus tribesmen came to Quarry Hill to carve out bowls and rudimentary tools from its soft soapstone escarpments. Once clay pottery emerged, the quarry lost its usefulness and lapsed into obscurity. In the present day, property on Federal Hill is zoned only for residential or recreational use, for ball games on the green and church gatherings on Sundays. But it wasn't always so, because long ago there were no pretty houses crisscrossed by neat little fences. There was only the Westwoods, with impenetrable timber trees rising above and ragged and rocky earth below. Earth that contained treasures like soapstone, and who knows what else. Joel realizes that while the tide of human events stripped Bristol's central hilltop of its usefulness as a quarry and layered Federal Hill as its residential successor, one man still endeavored to dig up its soil, to mine the treasures of Quarry Hill as the tribesmen of olden times had done before. One man, Nathan Burge. Joel now understands the true purpose and secret design of Burge's special project to develop the residential plots of Federal Hill. Burge didn't hire Case to build houses for profit, or have need of a machine to excavate basements. That's just what Burge wrote on the paper contract to conceal his real intentions. What Burge really wanted, what he secretly hired Case to do, was to dig down under the soil of the old Quarry Hill, territory that the townspeople would never allow to be disturbed. Once a white steepled church was erected there, once homes and roads were placed there. Burge hired Case to be, not an architect, but a miner, to be his pickaxe, to dig a series of basement-level excavations, all in a line down Spring Street and elsewhere, uncovering the secrets of Federal Hill's subterranean realm and exposing what may rest deep down there, under the rocks and soil and sediment. Yet, in all his efforts, Case never struck gold, or gemstones, or anything close to a precious ore. So the question is, why? Why is this secret exploration so important to Burge? What is he looking for? It is a question that will soon be revealed by Nathan Burge himself. But before Joel finds his answers, an altogether different, seminal, and curious happening intervenes. To be continued in the next chapter of The Choice.